future is now.
Broadcasting from the Queen City, breaking down business, leadership, community, and family. Here's your host, the president and CEO of the Northern Cincinnati Foundation, Erin Satzker.
The future is now.
I am so excited to be sitting across from you today, Rob Siegmann with Total Wealth Planning. Thank you for being on What Gives. How are you today?
Thank you, Erin. It's my honor. I appreciate you having me. I'm doing fantastic, other than just some of those seasonal allergies that some of us in Cincinnati are.
Everyone's struggling. Everyone's on the struggle bus, no matter what the season is in Cincinnati. Everyone is struggling with those seasonal allergies. We hear you. So Total Wealth Planning, I remember, I just have to say, meeting you like almost 9 years ago now, when I first started at the Northern Cincinnati Foundation. Back then it was Community Foundation of Westchester Liberty. And since we've grown and we've grown our brand, and you've grown along with us as a custodian of our fund holders at the Northern Cincinnati Foundation. So I just think about, that initial meeting with yourself, Dave Wilder, Rob Lemons, and I just remember that being so memorable. You were so welcoming, very excited, and really believed in foundations. So I'm excited to introduce our audience today to Total Wealth Planning and the Rob that I know you to be. And so let's talk a little bit and dive into kind of how you came to be and your history. What is your path to getting into financial advising, and how did you get there?
Yeah, great. Thanks. And the partnership with the Community Foundation has been fantastic. It's very important to our firm to be a member of our community and support our community, because the stronger the Cincinnati community is, the stronger our client families are. And it's just so rewarding to participate in such a fantastic foundation.
Yeah.
So just kind of thinking about, how I got started. I mean, I've been here for 29 years. And
you are too young for that statement.
Well, I appreciate that. But, my mentor and our firm's founder, Brett Wilder, he started the firm in 89. And a couple of years after that, I joined him. But I think what I appreciate in reflecting is that, Brett embraced the fiduciary and the fee-only model very early on. Right now it's pretty commonplace, but it really helped us build long-lasting relationships and just, serving Cincinnati families one at a time. This grew. Now we serve over 650 families across 35 states, and over $1 billion of our clients' life savings are entrusted to us. That we certainly don't take that for granted.
No.
A couple of the things that makes our firm distinct, and that gives me a lot of purpose and passion for what we do, is there are money managers and there are wealth planners. And we're on the side of wealth planners, not just investment advisors, really meaning that we do our best work when families count on us as their fractional CFO to help with all kinds of the disciplines of the planning process around financial, tax, family, and also philanthropic issues.
Yes.
Hence leading to our partnership.
Right. No, and I so love that. I'm out and about in the Cincinnati community all the time. I meet with all the financial advisors, CFPs, from the big shops to the RIA firms and the banks. And it's so nice because we have a very strong partnership with you, where you guys are really diving into the full plan for the families that you're serving and the individuals you're serving, and if they are philanthropic or interested in being philanthropic, what does that look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, sometimes we scratch our heads just because we don't see as much giving across our client base as we would like to see.
Sure.
We serve a lot of quiet millionaires, a lot of first-generation folks. And I think it's somewhat natural to protect your family, take care of your family first, then second, help out others.
Right.
But I think as the process goes along and as those client relationships mature with us over time, we're blessed that clients stay with us, for 15, 20 years. out of our 34-year history. Although, to your point, clients do seem to gain a sense of confidence after having a comprehensive plan together, because without that plan, not knowing what could happen or what blind spots are out there, there really is room for charitable intent in a financial plan. But until all of those pieces are put together and all the goals are ranked, whether it be retirement or a second home or education for kids or grandkids, like I said, it's, I think, human nature to take care of your own family first before sharing with others.
Right.
But I think through that planning process, we're able to help move clients to a place of confidence and comfort to be able to make some impact in the community.
Sure. No, I think that makes complete sense. Something I'm impressed about with you guys as well is that your team really does, put your money where your mouth is, right? In the sense that you believe in giving back. You're super involved in the community. You guys are involved with various boards on your team, but also you hold donor advised funds at Northern Cincinnati Foundation, which you use as that philanthropic vehicle. Can you talk about that? Because I find that even financial advisors don't quite understand sometimes, not all the time, but why are donor advised funds like an advantage, and why should they be utilized versus just cutting a check, from your bank account here and there.
Yeah. So I'll touch on donor advised funds and why
I love that.
we think they are fantastic.
Good.
But first, I would love to just kind of share some of the community impact or some of the corporate giving initiatives that our company does.
Yes.
For everybody in the company, we will match up to $1,000 a year to any organization that employee feels that's important to them. So we can kind of get behind, as long as it's not a political endeavor, we will get behind our employees and match. Of course, we use our donor advised fund to facilitate those matches.
Yes.
We give our employees a paid day off to volunteer, and we actually encourage our team to gather a small group, right? So it's a little bit of a team building event. So if there's 2-3 people that are going out to build a house for Habitat for Humanity, and there's just so many wins out of that
I think so too.
Paid day off. Lastly, as part of our commitment to support our clients and their charitable efforts, any nonprofit or charitable fund or account, we drastically slash our fee, and just so because we want to help support our management fee for that account. We want to help support those clients in that effort. So now talking about the donor advised fund, what makes it so fantastic is we use the backbone and infrastructure of the Northern Cincinnati Foundation to essentially create a private foundation for each individual family that can be utilized for what it is that's important to that family, and also provide some legacy so that donor advised fund can essentially exist in perpetuity across generations.
Right.
The way that we've used it for clients in the past is, the best time to make some contributions is when you're in your peak earning years. So if you're, making a lot of money and you're paying, 32 or 35% federal tax, and, that's really when you want to make some donations.
Yes.
And with the increased standard deduction from a tax perspective, I think it's $27,000 this year or something.
Yes.
So, you've got to at least give $30,000 or so to make that itemized deduction, make the tax strategy work. So we've all heard of charitable bunching. Maybe if I say, hey, I want to give $25,000 a year is my goal, well, I might accelerate 10 years worth of my gifts and donate $250,000 into a donor advised fund all in 1 year. And then now it gets to grow and it gets to produce that $25,000 distribution or grants to whomever I choose.
Yes. And I actually think, to butt in here and then you can keep expanding on that, is that's something that not a lot of people talk about. And I love that you have the knowledge base for that. It's just great. So keep going.
There's something, I think it's philanthropy disguised as a tax strategy, or perhaps it's the other way around.
Right.
But it's when you're making that kind of income, and when you have been an investor with a firm like Total Wealth Planning or any other great wealth planning firm in town, you probably have a lot of appreciated assets in your portfolio. So, what goes up sometimes can go down. We're always rebalancing the portfolio, but the nice rebalancing the portfolio, meaning lopping some profits or picking some fruit off the trees that's bearing fruit. Well, if you're charitably inclined, if you want to rebalance your portfolio and sort of pare away at some of those things that have been rocket ships for the last couple of years, instead of selling, paying the tax, and then reinvesting in your portfolio, you just gift those shares to the community foundation into your donor advised fund. And as long as you've held that security for 12 months or more, you get to write off the full dollar amount of the market value. Doesn't matter what you paid for it. Right. The foundation doesn't pay tax. You don't pay tax. And so now you've put money into an account that now you have some discretion over who those funds go to. And again, Total Wealth Planning is blessed to provide management of some of those donor advised funds and scholarship funds for some of our mutual donor families.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you put enough in a donor advised fund with some growth, this thing could survive for generations with some, reasonable gifts that you're making.
And I think that is the goal, right? It's like you have this, I think as a planning professional, we're both planning professionals, right? You are advising clients on their finances for their family, and philanthropy is a part of that some of the time. And for me, I'm just working with those that are philanthropic and they really have this legacy idea of like, okay, I want to create the Siegmann family fund, and then I want my children to then manage this, and I want my grandkids to be involved. And it's like that in perpetuity thought of like, let's make an impact. I'm a first generation philanthropist, and I want to teach them how to give and why it's important. And like you said, I like the total wealth planning philosophy on this because it's about giving the money. I think that is so important. The nonprofits really need somebody that can give the money, but also the time. The fact that you have employees going out, you're volunteering, so you get that dopamine impact of how amazing it feels to help somebody. I think that's the beginning steps into philanthropy. You're like, wow, it feels so good to give this person, whatever they may not have or the opportunity they may not have had, and to provide that. So I commend you for that. I wish more people had this philosophy. I get to work with amazing people, but it's good to be philanthropic.
I appreciate that. And when I think about sort of that, it really wasn't modeled to me early on, having been sort of a first-generation financial success.
Yeah.
Although, however, being raised in a single-parent household, I saw my dad give of his time quite often. Not necessarily the treasure, but he had a lot of talents, and he found the time to help out neighbors, to help out family, to help out other families at church.
Right.
Just fixing things around the house. I mean, he had a giant garden. He would give away his vegetables. He'd help people with math homework. I mean, he was fantastic. Yeah. So he modeled that life of service to me. And then it was back in 2014, I was humbly accepted into Sea Change, the leadership program from the Cincinnati Chamber. And I'll tell you, I was humbled every single day around this group of just amazing 55 people, these leaders. And I just recognized that there was a piece of my life that was missing, and it was giving back and philanthropy, because I had just been so focused on this business and learning how to run this business. And then shortly after that, I think I probably was at one of the foundation get-togethers, with you and with the foundation's original founder, Patty Alderson.
Yeah.
And just had a conversation with Patty, and I said, Patty, can you help me with this? Snapped her finger, boom, I'm on the board of the Boys and Girls Club of Westchester Liberty. At the time, I think I had a little more time, but now I've got 3 kids, so I'm really reserved to providing some treasure, maybe a little talent, but the time is just that
tough.
Commodity that is very tough to come with when you're
100%. Running
a business and managing a family.
Right. And then maybe that's where more that monetary aspect can step in. The time is great, but you don't always have it to give, but giving financially is still super impactful.
And there's certainly that good feeling.
There is.
So that, kind of translated into serving on the board of the Boys and Girls Club and seeing the impact of those children. And, reflecting on my own life of saying, I had a great upbringing, but there weren't a lot of choices or options. So I really feel blessed on the path that Brett, the founder of this business, saw me as his diamond in the rough, had a lot of confidence in me and patience with me, quite frankly, that got me where I was at today.
I think we all need a mentor like that. So I appreciate you talking about that, because everyone needs a mentor like that in their lives to get them to, success, right?
A mentor who had the right moral compass, the right model, the right model early on of serving clients, meeting their interests first. They'll stay with you for the long term, selling products, annuities, and all that stuff. That's transactional. That's very short-lived.
Right.
And I appreciate early on having been raised with the model that, quite frankly, most of the public is seeking today for their financial planning needs. And I'd love to add that I wanted to expand on my philanthropic connections. And
Please.
Erin, you turned me on to DePaul Cristo Ray down in Clifton. And my wife and I went down there and got a tour, and we were just so excited about what they were doing, slightly different than the mission of the Boys and Girls Club. And I think it was just it just hit me at the core of, wow, they're finding just these outstanding kids who otherwise may not have been on the trajectory that they could be on, the diamonds in the rough.
Right.
So really just felt so strong about supporting that organization and what they've done in our community, and just getting these kids, breaking that cycle, if you will.
Yeah.
And that just feels so good to be a part of that.
I think so. I mean, if we can help break the poverty cycle as getting involved in philanthropy and seeing what we can do. I mean, to me, that is what it's all about, right? To give someone that chance, and to show them that they can. And so I love that cause. There's so many great causes, though, in this whole region. It's like, but I just knew that. I'm glad that you fell in love with it. I just saw that as the cause for you when you described what you were looking to give back to. And it's so good to hear from our donors about, what are you passionate about? And then we try to find the passion. And I love, as well as our team at the Northern Cincinnati Foundation, just being like that resource, and trying to be a connector for those causes. So I'm glad that you found the passion there as well.
Absolutely. And the foundation was a huge part in helping pull that out of me. I think just innately it's more effective, more efficient to help break the cycle and help elevate a child who really is in a situation that was not of their choosing, not of their choices. Right. So I think that's where my heart is to be able to provide those options and choices, and provide the support maybe they're not getting from other sources.
Sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. So Rob, tell me about we've talked about this before, but just your path to, college and graduation. And I like that story. So I want to hear you share that story with our audience.
Yeah, thanks. As I mentioned, I think going through the Lakota school system was not necessarily encouraged to pursue a post-education college. And quite frankly, just in a single-parent household, it was cost prohibitive as well.
Right.
So I basically came to work here and at Total Wealth Planning under Brett Wilder. And then I started going to industry conferences and just, meeting other fantastic people in the industry. And that question comes up, oh, where'd you go to school? Lakota. Where'd you go to school? Notre Dame.
Right.
And I just felt about this big.
Yeah.
So that really compelled me to say, boy, I'm on a plateau here. I've got to do something. So it's probably, 5 or 6 years after graduating high school. Brett was kind enough to give me the flexibility and sort of pay as we went. So 12 years later, nights and weekends, that very non-traditional path through college, I ended up with an MBA from Xavier. And I think what's most meaningful to me is that going through college while working a career, trying to maintain a social life, and just all of those different facets that you're trying to manage at once. It taught me how to manage priorities. And it also allowed me to extract some of the most practical learnings from school, some of the practical pieces from each class, versus cramming in 4 years, just getting through it and then starting in a career. I would question sometimes, some of the knowledge that you maybe carry over other than sticking to something, managing deadlines, studying, researching. I mean, some of the core foundational things that college is fantastic for.
Right.
But, it's like Brett was a great chef.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't know how to run the restaurant. When I started, I was a teenager. I had no idea how to run a restaurant. So over time, out of necessity, I was forced to learn how to run the business, how to, innovate, how to continually serve more clients and elevate that client experience. So through some of those lessons, through each of the classes that I could handpick, I would just get little nuggets of wisdom that could help me innovate and evolve, my own personal growth, but also the growth of the business as well.
No, I think that's great. And I find that, us talking about the foundation, and we work with so many first-generation philanthropists, so many people with stories like you on that. I can't even tell you, it's like, I think of John Plains and sitting next to John Plains and talking to him about, hey, I started my business in my garage and kind of just that. And we all know Plains, right? Moving and storage and how he's grown that business. And so I love those stories. And those are the people that we get to work with in this region, coming from nothing, building something from nothing, and then giving back. And that is just awe-inspiring to me. And that is the American dream, really, is that you do that, And so I think kudos to you for recognizing that, building something, sticking with it. And your team here has been phenomenal for us to work with. And so really, I love that story. I actually didn't know that about you until we're setting up for the podcast before this. And I'm like, wow. So it's really great to learn that about you.
I appreciate that. And your team is equally as amazing to work with.
Thank you.
The level of service and care that I know that our mutual clients get, removes any reservations whatsoever to sort of direct them your way.
Thank you.
And on John Plains, I understand that they are a big supporter of the community. My wife went to high school with his daughter.
Oh,
they're going to actually, we just signed a contract to expand our office space here in Blue Ash. Yeah. And they're going to come help us with that move.
Oh my gosh, that's so great. Well, they're the best. They've helped me with one move, and I'm very appreciative to that whole team. So that's so funny. Small world in Cincinnati. It always is. Rob, just thinking about Cincinnati, what are like 5 things in Cincinnati that you're like, I love these things, and this is what makes Cincinnati great?
Well, I'm a very loyal Cincinnatian. I've been here for 46 years. I'm still discovering new things. First and foremost, born and raised, I have a lot of family here. So, Cincinnati will always be home with lots of family here. It's kind of easy to fill a house for a birthday or a holiday. So I love that.
Yeah.
Secondly, as a financial planner, I've got a comment about the affordability. Cincinnati.
Yes.
I'm really appalled sometimes when you see some of the housing costs on the coast and some of the, other faster growing areas.
Right.
Maybe in the last few years that's changed a bit.
Sure.
But with affordability, what does that mean? That means you get to enjoy life a little more. You can enjoy some of the entertainment, dining out, traveling, funding kids' college, philanthropy.
Right.
Gives a lot of options if you're not spending, too much money on your housing.
Right.
And then just, some of the other things that Cincinnati has just always done so great about. The food scene has just blown up, OTR, all kinds of areas. There's anything you could ever want to find. The park system, fantastic. On a beautiful spring or fall day, I love taking the kids for a hike in any of our parks. Yeah. I live in Indian Hill, so we've got a fantastic park system there as well.
Definitely you do, yeah.
And then, last, there's a lot of entertainment and museum options, so there's never a dull time if I want to take the kids out and do something. I was born and raised going to Kings Island quite a bit, and I love taking the kids to Kings Island.
It is.
Just,
so fun.
When they were growing up, going to that, marker, we got the 48 inches.
Right.
Let's ride the beast.
That is so true, and I am currently there as well. I know we have kids around the same age, and it is so fun to take them and say, are you tall enough? And my son is finally tall enough for, some of the rides. I think it's, 42 inches or something for like the smaller threshold he's finally making. So
it's really exciting to unlock new rides year by year. But we've gotten to a point, my son's 54 inches, which is Diamondback and Orion.
And now are you afraid? Are you like, oh?
his bravery hasn't caught up with his height.
Yeah.
But now I'm waiting for my daughter, who is not scared of anything.
Right.
She's almost there, and I hope that this will be the year that maybe she'll ride them with me.
It's fun, isn't it? And it's the kids surprise you. My daughter, who I thought would be, and like, yes, I'm all in. I'm going to go on this one. She's like, I'm going to puke and like crying. And you're like, wow, what's happening here? Total meltdown on the beastie over there. So it is funny to see just how each kid is so different from one another on
Indeed.
if they'll do it or not. So, well, good. I love that. So talk about, I wanted to talk a little bit more about like your team at Total Wealth. And obviously you have like a remodel that we were talking about going on. You're expanding. It sounds like everything's going really well. And so I just wanted to highlight that a little bit.
I appreciate that. Yeah, there's a lot of exciting things that are happening. At the core, right, this firm is broken up. We have 17 employees, serve about 650 clients with about $1 billion of assets under management. Mm-hmm. We're broken up into 3 different departments. My partner, Dave Wilder, who's Vanguard trained, manages our investment portfolio and policies. My other partner, Rob Lemons, he manages the client advising, and he sort of mentors and builds up a lot of our wealth advisors and associate wealth advisors. And just the custom tailored work that they provide to clients is just outstanding. So what do I do? Well, everything that nobody else wants to do.
Yeah.
The HR, the marketing, the compliance, the technology, the systems, the innovation.
Right.
So I really support everybody in the business. And, I've got a fantastic colleague that supports me now. Mm-hmm. So we are 3 partners with very different skill sets that, just like a business marriage made in heaven.
Yeah.
We complement each other. We're able to respectfully disagree and, really group think to come up with the best ideas. We had our first mergers and acquisition activity at the end of 2021. So we picked up a second office.
Congratulations. I feel like that's always, you're like nervous to do it, but it can be so beneficial. So yeah, let's talk a little bit more about the Carmel, Indiana, you said.
Yeah, so Carmel, Indiana, and it's really gone just fantastic. We've got a great team over in Carmel, Indiana that serves, again, another group of fantastic Midwestern, quiet millionaire type of clients. It wasn't something that we were necessarily seeking out. These advisors who had not built their own retirement plan sought us out because of a couple key factors, right? Fee only, Schwab, comprehensive model, utilizing dimensional fund advisors, and just really putting the client's interest first. So we're having advisors who are looking to retire or looking for their own succession plan reach out to us. And, as long as there is a cultural and a philosophical fit, we're open to having those conversations.
Right.
And that's an opportunity for us to grow, both in terms of talent as well as some inorganic growth.
Yeah, I think it really is. And I think you have to be thinking about that. And in anything, even in philanthropy, you have to be thinking about M&A and how can we grow. And so congratulations, I think, should be said. And I think now is the time with the boomers and, all these transition plans. I mean, for me, I think now is the time even for philanthropy and, estate plans and, if they're selling a business, donation of S Corp. We actually just went through that fire drill with you all, and I think we learned a lot about that. We are now set up to take and accept S Corp at a certain threshold. It makes sense, right? If we are receiving S Corp stock, and so I don't know if you want to chat about that as a strategy too for mergers and acquisitions. And I think so many people don't understand that. I find, so.
Yeah, I don't necessarily have an example of how it relates to mergers and acquisitions, but, one of the other things, our business was founded in 1989 by Brett Wilder, and then Rob and Dave and I bought the entire business from him in 2015 when he was ready to retire. And here we are 8 years later, and we've tripled the size of the business just through, excellent market growth, excellent client retention, as well as the reputation we've built in the community. But for me, it was really important to be able to share some of that ownership, some of that equity with some of our junior partners who are doing fantastic work with clients and really shouldering a lot of the burden of what we do on a day-to-day basis. So also in 2021, when we were going through the merger, we were also building an employee stock purchase plan. And again, it was compelling for me to be able to share some of that equity with some of the folks while they're still younger, because I know what I went through in 2015. I always thought I was acting like an owner, but it's not until, your name is on the line through all the contracts and leases and responsibilities that you have that owner mindset.
Right.
So ended up selling to 3 additional junior partners over the past 2 years. And just that switch that I've seen in them of, wow, the decisions that they're making, the mindfulness of how do we do this better for clients, and how do we train and develop our team so that we can continue to grow and have the capacity to meet the ever-growing demand for client families seeking out our work. So that's really exciting to be able to expand ownership beyond just the 3 of us. We're now at 6 owners out of 17 employees.
Yeah.
And I don't see that slowing down.
Yeah.
And certainly there comes to a point where you're wanting to monetize some of your equity. But if you're wanting to monetize the equity of your business, but then escape some taxation, you could certainly facilitate a gift to the foundation through some of the shares. And then, there's a lot of tax implications that are involved here, that consult your tax advisor
it's very sophisticated. It is a
sophisticated
way to give, but I think it's important that I like that this is a discussion point that you have had, are having, and so I think that's really great, because a lot of the times I find that those big transitions, that's where, philanthropy really is born in these, like, almost, we're holding these funds, almost like private foundations for all of these fund holders. And it happens through a large transition, whether that's the sale of a business, whether that's a death, whether that's inheritance or something along those lines, or just a really good business year. I mean, there are so many things that happen, or even just retirement. And so I think it's good that you are so educated on those ways to give. I do find, I don't know how we can fix that problem. I would say, how can we fix this problem? That so many people aren't aware of, deducting and what those advantages are. And really it's like, is your CPA aware? Do you have a tax attorney? Kind of like all of those individuals, they're really great at their skill, their skill. But when it comes to, being philanthropic, it's just hard to find that education level, frankly.
Yeah, I was going to comment that, an analogy that I frequently use for the clients that we serve and help get them across the goal line of their specific goals is kind of like climbing a mountain.
Yeah.
Would you ever go climb a mountain by yourself?
No.
I mean, there's 2 things
I can tell you no. I'm out. I'm not. No, absolutely no. That sounds terrible.
I mean, just to simplify.
Are there bears? What's happening?
I'm sure it is not easy.
I didn't do Boy Scouts. I can't make fire. You know what I mean?
I'll boil it down to there's probably 2 scenarios, right?
Okay.
Number 1, you probably don't reach the top.
No, I don't. Does it get dark? I'm afraid of the dark.
Number 2, catastrophically, you could fall off.
Yes.
Right. So there's a lot of parallels with, financial planning, reaching your goals, with climbing a mountain. You would never do that on your own.
No.
So I know a lot of business owners that all of their wealth is in their business.
100%.
They have very little liquid wealth. So they think, well, I don't need a wealth planner. I don't need a financial planner because I don't have enough. I don't have anything.
Right.
And then at the time of a transaction or a sale, they may or may not find that guide to help them climb that mountain.
Right.
So without that guide, tax preparers are tax preparers, right? They're focused on the compliance of preparing. And unless it is a proactive relationship that I rarely see, quite frankly,
yes,
that advice is probably just not discussed until maybe after the fact.
Right.
So it's something that needs to be coordinated.
If you're paying, we're going to ballpark it. If you're paying $130,000 in taxes, wouldn't it be advantageous to open a donor advised fund versus paying all that tax?
Oh, absolutely.
Amen.
And I think the other roadblock that we see is, that sometimes is a tricky question if you don't have a deep relationship and know the family quite well.
Yeah.
Just to bring out, how do you feel about giving? You want to give some money to charity? that's an awkward conversation to ask someone that maybe you only see transactionally, every year, every couple years, or as needed.
Right.
So I think that's
probably hard from their standpoint. I see that. I think that's a really great point. I mean, obviously, that's all I do is ask people if they want to be charitable and donate.
Not hard for you.
It's not hard for me, but I get how I can understand that. Yeah, that's a great point.
And I think, again, Total Wealth Planning is one of many great firms in Cincinnati. And I know a lot of the other owners and advisors at other firms. It's a great town, so there's no shortage of mountain climbing guides.
Yes. And I think that's a good point, too. We partner with a lot of great custodians. You are one of those that we partner with. And frankly, I think you're the first RIA relationship we had. And that's kind of, really helped us as well grow. And so I just have to say thank you for that, for partnering with us, trusting us in that partnership, and utilizing a community foundation for your clients. Because you don't have to. People know that. You don't have to. You can utilize just Schwab, and Vanguard and Fidelity for their charitable donor advised funds. And I love that you, with the right clients, partner with us as a community foundations.
Yeah, I think the difference there is, do you just want a tool or a conduit?
Yes.
Or do you want a relationship and a community and some support to really draw out your passion?
Yeah.
And I kind of going back to that mountain guide, financial planners really act as a quarterback. We may not have all of the specialties in, legal or tax or insurance. We're generalists. We know enough to direct you to other professionals that maybe are already in your circle of trust, or ones that we can introduce into your circle of trust to get some of those things implemented.
Right.
Sometimes it's an awkward conversation. We're fee only or commission free. We don't sell insurance products. But what if I need insurance? Well, you either have someone that you trust already and we'll work with them and we'll create synergy, or if you don't have someone, we'll bring someone to the table that's highly vetted, that's not going to sell you the Cadillac with every single option when you only need, a term life policy or something like that.
Sure, that makes sense. I like that. I think that does make a lot of sense. As we've grown as a foundation, I think you guys have also kind of grown in tandem, and so it's been a really fun partnership. Is there anything else you want to talk to our audience about today on What Gives and fill them in about Total Wealth Planning?
Yeah, I've really appreciated the conversation. I think it's word of wisdom out there is, I always think of kind of success in the financial world as a series of really basic steps, right? Get some skills, get a job, live within your means, save. Now save in the right buckets and invest. And make sure that your blind spots are limited, i.e., having a comprehensive plan. And when you have those things, don't put your philanthropic interest, don't put significance kind of off to the side or say, I'll get to that someday.
Right.
There is an element of just giving back in gratitude, and it just has felt so good. And I mean, I probably started when I was late 30s. Wish I would have started in my 20s, quite honestly. So, and that's probably a bit much. I'm very hard on myself, as you know. I think that's just the key, is to make sure that you're keeping in mind your community, because what gives certainly comes back around and pays you dividends.
Thank you for being here today and hosting us for What Gives, and it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Likewise. Thank you, Erin. It's all mine.
To learn more about how to expand your philanthropy, please reach out to the Northern Cincinnati Foundation. What Gives is produced and distributed by King Hightower Strategies.